Shalom, everyone. This brother Travis with King James Bible University. And today we're going to speak on this question in Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 29. Who hath babbling? So this question will be answered using precepts and the book alone. The Sovereign King James Bible 1611 with the Apocrypha included. As you can see, we are in the Apocrypha in the left side of the screen in Sirach or Ecclesiasticus. So in the Sovereign King James Bible is the true and only doctrine in which I study from. I do not seek out the other books in which a babbler does. So who has babbling? A babbler is the same person that's a fool, that has no knowledge, no wisdom, nor understanding. The Spirit of God is not with them. It's not with the babbler, the one that has babbling. They are in other books, doctrines, and teachings. A babbler believes in the precepts of men, the false way, and the science falsely so called, along with philosophy. A babbler doesn't hold his tongue, but uses many words, adding and taking away to and from what's truth. A babbler is a sinner, hated by God, not loved, not promised, but hated. A babbler spread lies and confusion. The pride has their eyes and their ears shut so that they hearken not unto what is truth when it is being presented unto them. A wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time. We see that in Sirach chapter 20 and verse 7. A wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time. So someone that has babbling is someone that is a fool, that doesn't have knowledge nor wisdom. It's contrary to what a wise man is. So a fool and a wise man are contrary one to the other. Well, I should say that a fool is contrary unto this wise man, because the wise man is the one that has the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding. But the babbler is one that is a fool that does not have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. The Spirit of God is not with them. So who has babbling? We're going to find that out according to the doctrine, according to precepts. So we're going to stay in Sirach chapter 20 and we're going to go to verse 5. There is one that keepeth silence and is found wise, and another by much babbling becometh hateful. So the one that has babbling becometh hateful, because he using much babbling. He using words that he ought not to speak. He keepeth not silence, as the wise is found. So the wise man, the wise male or female, is the one that's gonna keep silence. They only gonna speak on what is truth. They're not gonna babble. They're not gonna be vain. They're not gonna be into science. They're not gonna be into philosophy. They only gonna be into the truth. A wise man keepeth silence until that wise men are able to properly answer the topic of discussion when it comes to the book of the Lord. So this one that is a babbler, that has babbling, becometh hateful. Verse 8. He that useth many words shall be abhorred, because the babbler becometh hateful. Esau couldn't hold his tongue. That's why he lived with strife, wrestling with his brother Jacob. He wrestled with him with much babbling and with many words. We're going to go to Sirach chapter 19 and verse 6. He that can rule his tongue shall live without strife, and he that hateth babbling shall have less evil. So according to the manner of which Esau was living, he was having that contention with his brother, with the other people, in the manner of which they were living, because they didn't have the same way of lifestyle, living according to the spirit. One was living according to the flesh. So we see that he that ruleth his tongue shall live without strife. So those that have contention is those that have strife, because they are having the babbling out of the mouth, out of their doctrine, out of the way they live. So they want to hold on to the ways of the flesh, living in this world according to the flesh, living a lifestyle for this temporal pleasure. So those that hate babbling shall have less evil. But we see that who has babbling, it's going to be those that are into things that are evil. They're not going to be into things that are just and things that are righteous. They're going to be into things that are evil. So who has these contentions? We saw in the previous teaching that it was Esau, because the contentions are connected to the strife, because those that are in strife with those that are in the truth are going to have evil come upon them. So we see in Genesis chapter 22 and verse 25. Or is it Genesis 25 and verse 22? Where it says, these children is speaking about works. So Genesis chapter 25, verse 22. And the works struggled together within her. So we saw that there's works of the flesh and they are works of the spirit. We saw that in the last teaching. So in Galatians chapter 5 and verse 19, we see that now the works of the flesh are made known, are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication. So we know that Esau was a fornicator, according to Hebrews chapter 12. He was living according to the flesh. Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person comparing as Esau. So Esau was a fornicator. He would bring in the works of the flesh. The works of the flesh are made known, which are these: fornication, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife. Esau, having pride, was tied to these works of the flesh. So he didn't live without strife, as we can see in Sirach chapter 19, verse 6, because he didn't rule his tongue, his customs, and his ways. He didn't rule that. And he that hateth babbling shall have less evil. So he was into evil. Esau was a hunter. He grew into his profession. He was on the hunt for souls of God, people. And we could see that in Genesis. Chapter 25 and verse 27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter. So this was his occupation, his profession. He was following the path of Nimrod. The beginning of Nimrod's kingdom was Babel. And we're going to see that in Genesis chapter 10. We're going to start at verse 8. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. Verse 9. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Nimrod, a hunter. So we see a correlation between Nimrod and Esau. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. In the beginning of Nimrod's kingdom was Babel. So this is the beginning of Nimrod's kingdom, Babel. So who started this kingdom? It was Nimrod. So Esau was following in the path, in the occupation of being a hunter, hunting for souls. So we're going to get some more story on Nimrod. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 11. And we're going to read from verse 1. Genesis chapter 11, verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Spirit of God came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Spirit of God said, behold, remember, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they began to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Spirit of God scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because this is the reason why that name was called Babel. The Spirit of God did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Spirit of God scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. So that was Genesis chapter 11, verse 1 through 9. The reason this hunter Nimrod kingdom was called Babel is because the Spirit of God did there confuse the language of all those that were trapped by this hunter. Spiritually. They were spiritually trapped by this hunter, and therefore every kingdom, everyone under that kingdom of this hunter was of all one of the same speech. And we see that in the first verse. The whole earth was of one language and of one speech. Verse 7, go to, let us go down there, confound, confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So they didn't have understanding of even what each other was saying, even though they were all of one language, because the Most High is either looking at you as you're going to be under the language of him, learning his language, his customs, and his ways, or you just on the other side of the plumb line, confused. So you are going to be under this kingdom, which is Babel. So we see that this is in correlation to the question that we answering. Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 29. Who hath babbling? So Esau is following after the traditions of being a hunter, hunting for souls. So those that are under the kingdom of this hunter, Nimrod, is in confusion. Because we just read that in Genesis chapter 10, in verse 8 and 9, that Nimrod began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter. Nimrod was a mighty hunter. Who else was a hunter? A cunning hunter? Not cunning hunter, hunger. Cunning hunter. Esau was a cunning hunter. So we see the correlation of these two, Nimrod and Esau. And the beginning of Nimrod kingdom was Babel. Who hath babbling? Nimrod, including those under his kingdom. The beginning of Nimrod kingdom was Babel. Who hath babbling? Nimrod, including those under his kingdom. Because when we revisit Genesis chapter 11, it says in verse 1, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a way, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Spirit of God came to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. So the works of men, they builded this city and this tower with their own hands, with their own powers. And the Spirit of God said, remember, the people is one, and they have all one language. So all of those that's contrary, and their language and speech is contrary unto the Most High, to the Spirit of God, you all gonna just be one people to him. And we see in Genesis chapter 25 and verse 22, where it say that Rebekah went to inquire of the Spirit of God. So she went to inquire of the Spirit of God, because the children, those works, struggled together within her. Verse 23, and the Spirit of God said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So there's only 2. There's those that are in the manner of following the way of Jacob, and then those that are following the manner of Esau. So we see Esau being a hunter. He was following what? The same path that Nimrod, whom was a hunter, was following as well. So those that are in the kingdom of Babel are all one people. Because we see in Genesis chapter 11, verse 6, it says what? The people is one. So the Spirit of God is only seeing one people and the other people. So you see 2 manner of people in Genesis chapter 25 and verse 23. He's only seeing it as one people that's going to be stronger than the other people. So those that are what? Confused, that has Babel, that has the babbling, that doesn't understand each other's speech, those are all grouped and lumped into one people. The Spirit of God is only going to see it as you're being obedient or you're being disobedient. Genesis chapter 11, verse 6. And the Spirit of God said, remember, the people is one, and they have all one language. So their language is separated from the language of JEHOVAH. The language of the Spirit of God is not the same or to be likened unto the language of men. Genesis chapter 11, verse 7. Go to, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So although their language is all grouped together in the Most High Eye, the Most High God eyes, his understanding, he see them all as one. So although they are lumped into this one category of people, they don't even understand one another's speech. And this is the reason why we have so many different Christian denominations and backgrounds of lifestyles on how they worship. They have Baptists, they have Mormon, they have all of these different religions and denominations. They don't even understand one another's speech, because this building is going to worship away and this building is going to worship away, and they don't even have a agreement in their own doctrine of what they worship. Because all of their language is what? Confused. It's babble. It's them in their babbling. So Esau and those that are like Esau has babbling. So the Spirit of God scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. So you see who scattered them. That's why they are all in different buildings. They are scattered. They all are seeking to find the church home for them. The building, I'm not going to call it a church, but it's a building that they looking for that's going to cater to their lifestyle. So they were all scattered, and that's why all of their languages confound, is confused, because they don't even understand one another's speech. That's why there are different denominations. There are, let me see. So I'm just Googling something right now. So it says right here, my Google finding of the question is, how many denominations are there? Christian, because it's all going to fall under that. There's Pentecostal, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Baptist. That's what I was, Baptist, over here in Florida. I was going to Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church, right down here in Florida, right down here on, Florida. So it says apostolic, whatever, Methodist, all of these. But it'd take me all day just to read 45,000 of them, so they are all scattered. They are all under Christianity, and they all have the language confused one from another. I'm going to go to Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5. And then I'm going to go back on Esau, because I'm on his head right now. I ain't letting him up. I ain't letting him go. I've been meditating on this because I got to make sure I'm not being in the path of Esau, following after being a hunter, hunting after y'all that's in the truth. So I got to be sure to, beat up myself as I'm beating up the flesh of Esau. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is confused noise. For real. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise. The children, these works that struggle together within her. It was a war, it was a battle. Spiritually. The battle of this warrior, Esau, being that hunter, is with confused noise. and garments rolled in blood. So, okay, how can we connect this to another precept for understanding? We're going to do that, and we're going to do it and just follow along, and you'll see it. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. We're going to go to 2 Kings, chapter 3, and verse 22. Just came here for a piece of information. And they rose up early in the morning, and the sun shone upon the water. And the Moabites saw the water on the other side as red as blood. So, okay. And we see in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5, garments rolled in blood. So we can get a correlation of blood is red, right? So we see blood is red, right? Okay, cool. You see that. So we're going to see something else. So blood is red, correct? All right, cool. Genesis chapter 25, verse 25. So we should all know this is speaking about Esau. And the first came out red. So Esau came out red, all over, like an hairy garment. We know Esau was what? Struggling. He was at war. He had strife. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise. So that's how he was battling, with this confused noise. So we still going to answer the question of who has babbling. So the way he was battling was with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. So we see that what? The blood is red, according to 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 22. So keep this in mind, the blood is red. So we see that what Esau, he did what? He came out red, all over like an hairy garment. So red is meaning what? Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 18. Come now, and let us reason together, said the Spirit of God. Though your sins be as scarlet, the sins, shall be as white as snow. Because the sins are a different color. White as snow is white as snow. Though the sins, be red as, or like, or comparison to crimson, they shall be as wool. So the sins are red. So Esau came out red, all over. That was his covering. That was his garment. He was covered in sin. He was this battle warrior with that confused noise in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5. His garments was rolled in blood, meaning what? It was rolled in that red. That was his covering. So blood has a meaning. Blood is a lifestyle. So he was covered in his lifestyle. Esau, he was just a wicked person, a wicked man. He was just bringing all of the works of the flesh. You know, he was covered in the acts of his sin. Even though all of us being born, we were born into what? Imputed with this flesh. We were all born into sin. We were all covered in, let's go to it, Psalms chapter 51. We got to remember this. Verse 5, Psalms chapter 51 and verse 5. Remember, behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. So all of us is shapen in iniquity, the acts of sin. So we got to keep in mind that once we come into the knowledge of truth, we have to what? Make sure we confess these things. We are leaving off the old man, leaving off this creature, this old way and habit of lifestyle of living. So I have to make sure that I follow the way of Esau just to get some intel on myself, to make sure that I'm not being a battle warrior with confused noise. I got to be what? Just as the man in the beginning of this lesson, I got to be one that what? Remember what happened in the beginning of this lesson? We're going to go back to it. We're going to go to Sirach, chapter 20, and verse 5, where it says right there in verse 5, there is one that keepeth silence and is found wise, and another by much babbling becometh hateful. So I don't want to be one that is under the kingdom of Babel. The kingdom of Babel over here. In Genesis chapter 10, verse 10, the beginning of Nimrod kingdom was Babel. We see that. The reason of Babel is because the Spirit of God did confound the language of all the earth. All of the earth is under this one language, in which is confusing. They are scattered. They are not gathered. They are scattered. So Babel is going to be what? Those that are hateful. Unto who? Unto God. So I got to make sure that what? I'm not being hateful, having this babble. I got to keep silence until what? I'm able to answer. Because it's not just going to be keeping silence just forever. Nah. There is one that keepeth silence and is found wise. But the one that keepeth silence and that is found wise, he has to what? Study to then be able to what? Have an answer. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 28. The heart of the righteous studieth to answer, but the mouth of the wicked poureth out evil things. The mouth of the wicked poureth out evil things. He is what? Babbling. So we're going to go to the question in Proverbs, where it's asking who hath babbling. It's Esau that has babbling. And all of those that are like-minded unto Esau, being a fornicator, fornicating with other doctrines. So the mouth of the wicked, the doctrine of the wicked poureth out evil things. Exactly the point, because you have to go to a doctrine to study. So those that don't study themselves to show themselves approved unto God are what? Studying another doctrine, because everyone is following a path. It was already foretold to us that two manner of people is going to be separated. It's going to be all of those that are of one language, and then all of those that what? Have a righteous heart, that studieth to answer, that keepeth quiet, that keepeth silence until what? They have an answer to properly convey the message to those that are what? Seeking truth. And then what? That sower went out to sow that seed, and now what? That seed, being the word of God, is giving it to all of those, planting it into the dirt of those that are doing what? watering the seed themselves or from another messenger, to then go forward and study to show themselves approved over here. In 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15, where we see that we leave in Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 28, where those that are righteous are going to what? Study to have an answer. And then once you seek out of the book and read, you're going to be what? Rightly dividing the word of truth. So 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So if you don't have the message properly conveyed to yourself, don't go out there and try to teach. First learn, eat at home, so you don't be as this person over here in Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 29, having that babbling. Because we are to study to show ourselves approved unto God, being a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So we have to be not under that kingdom of Babel. We got to do what? Not go out and do what? Eat from other tables. Because we see over here in the letter of Paul, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 34, and if any man hunger, let him eat at home, let him learn at home, that you come not together unto condemnation. Don't come together under that punishment, being under the kingdom of what? Babel. Because we see over here that they came together and they were all what? Confused. Because we see over here what they did in Genesis chapter 11, verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a way, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Spirit of God came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. Okay? They were all under the rulership and the kingdom of Babel. We seen that time and time again. We seen that. So if any man hunger, in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 34, we supposed to learn at home, not come together unto condemnation. We seen that they were all what? Confused. That was their punishment. Being what? In the mindset, having all of that babbling. But they chose that. They chose that path. And this is where we see that all of those that are in those buildings, under those rulerships and governments of a man, we see that the different denominations that are what? Of a confused speech and language. It says right here in Acts chapter 7, verse 48, howbeit the Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands. So a building made with hands is what the children of men builded with their own powers. The Spirit of God came to see that and was like, no. I can't dwell there. I don't dwell there. We're going to go to Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 24. For Christ is not entering into the holy places made with hands, the figures of the true. So those buildings made with hands are a figure of the truth. It's not the real truth. It's just a figure of it. It's not the true truth at all. So the Spirit of God came to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And then verse 6, Genesis chapter 11, the Spirit of God said, remember, the people is one. All of those that are in those buildings, you are considered one. That's why every different denomination is lumped under Christianity. Christianity is what? Stupid people. Titus chapter 1 and verse 12. One of themselves, a prophet of their own, said, the Christians are always liars, evil beasts, slow bellies. Christians. What does this mean? What does this mean? It's a Christian. Cretan, a stupid person. The etymology of Cretan, they tried to get rid of the word, right? So all it did was just go through transformations of the spelling. It all means the same thing. When you do your research and you do your homework and you trace back the etymology of the word, it's going to be tied to what's the truth in the book. The book is what came first. All of the other languages came after that. So the people that are stupid don't really know how dumb they are because they try to get away from this word, but those that are going to study to show themselves approved is going to dig deep into what the books say and going to find out what the truth of the matter is, because they want to be under what? The language of the Most High, and not be under the language of all of the earth, the one people that is under that one speech. So we got to make sure that we following along on the precepts and get the understanding, stand within the book. I know someone is going to be like, well, you're not in the book looking up Christian on the internet. Well, do your research on what etymology is, and you'll find out what this word Christian is. Because all it means is just Christian. You can look it up yourself. You are evil. You are someone that what? Has babbling. Who hath babbling? Question. Did we answer this in this study today with Brother Travis? Did we answer this? I could pound on it some more. We can go to James chapter 3 and verse 16. For where envying is, for where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. So those that have confusion is those that has the babbling, because the Spirit of God came down to confound their language, those that are under the kingdom of Babel, Genesis chapter 11. So those that have that confusion have that evil work. So, okay, where does the strife come into play? Well, we already read this. Well, I can go up to this question the way we answered the last in the previous study. Who has contentions? Well, it was Esau that had the contentions. He was using strife of words. He was that battle warrior that had what? That confused noise. So let's go to Genesis chapter 25. And let's go to where he struggled with his brother. So these are works. Keep that in mind. These are works that struggle. The works of the flesh struggle against the works of the spirit. So where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. So Esau had contention. Esau had strife. Esau had every evil work. He had confusion. He had babbling. Covered in red. We saw that red is the same color as, or blood is the same color as red. That was 2 Kings chapter 3 and verse 22. Esau came out red all over. So him being in variance and strife with his brother, he was what? Of confusion. He had that babbling. More questions, more answers, more precepts. Through precepts, we get understanding. Because it's commanded of us to keep precepts. We're going to go to Psalms chapter 119, verse 4. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. Verse 104. Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way. So it's commanded of us to keep precepts. We get precepts through understanding, and it's a certain way that precepts have to be. We must go all over the doctrine to get the precepts, to get the understanding. According to Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 10, for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. We're going to go all over this book to get the understanding. Unlike those that are of confusion, they are going to what? Have that babbling. But those that have understanding through precepts is far away from babbling. Although we're going to be hearing it, but all we got to do is just hold on to what the books say when Babel approaches us. Hope all is well with everyone. And I just want to give you all encouragement to stay within this book and to not seek after the way of Esau, being of confusion. Shalom, everyone. Shalom, everyone. And